Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously thought-provoking text called The Obsolescence of Labor in the Digital Machine. You know that feeling when you're just staring at a mountain of emails, wondering what the actual tangible point of your daily grind even is? Well, you are definitely not alone. We're going to map out the evolution of human labor today, exploring how we transitioned from building tangible things in our local communities to basically processing invisible data in a massive, globalized digital machine. Get ready, because the source material we're breaking down asks some incredibly heavy questions about our modern reality. So, has work lost its purpose? It's a pretty massive thought to sit with, right? The text we're analyzing observes a growing reaction among younger generations and honestly even children towards the daily work of adults. And it really validates a feeling that a lot of them share. When they look at modern adult careers, they increasingly view them as a form of uselessness compared to almost anything else. We're going to explore exactly why the author believes this perception isn't just teenage rebellion or laziness. According to the text, it's actually a completely rational response to a fundamental shift in what work really means today. Okay, let's dive right into this. The author kicks things off with this bold statement directly from the source text. Man is not made to work. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but let's look at this neutrally. The author isn't saying humans aren't meant to do anything or exert effort at all. Instead, they are fundamentally challenging our modern definition of labor. According to this framework, the way we currently conceptualize work, as a lifelong repetitive grind to serve some abstract society, is completely unnatural to the human condition. Section 1, Work's original direct purpose. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. To really grasp how disconnected modern work has become, we've got to look backward for a second. In the past, work was concrete. It was heavily community-focused, providing an immediate, tangible benefit. You grew food, your neighbor ate it, you built a chair, someone actually sat in it. Today, however, our jobs are largely abstract and digital. Instead of producing verifiable goods for our literal neighbors, the text argues we are simply meeting invisible standards set by the state or by these vague societal expectations. The author argues this original, localized form of work was actually absolutely essential for human thriving. In those small communities, people managed situations directly. The benefits of their labor were entirely verifiable by everyone around them. But more importantly, this kind of physical, purposeful work fostered self-discovery. It drew out a unique inner sparkle from each person. It was basically a perfectly balanced ecosystem where work preserved both the individual's uniqueness and the community's survival at the exact same time. It was a win-win. Section 2, the shift to abstraction. So how exactly did we lose that perfect balance? Well, the source material asserts that so many jobs today concern purely abstract digital matters. We literally have millions of people and institutions playing with data and numbers that have absolutely no counterpart in physical reality. We've completely traded the concrete for the conceptual. Instead of working for what we can physically see and touch in ourselves and our close friends, we now work to meet a series of imposed artificial standards. We're basically grinding away for hopes and dreams rendered by society's vague examples of what a so-called good life is supposed to look like. Section 3, the illusion of money. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the author breaks down the reward for all that abstract work. Because modern money is strictly digital information, it's incredibly easy to generate. Governments and systems can just print it as needed out of thin air, which naturally produces inflation and automatically reduces its real value. The ultimate consequence, the text points out here, is that because our entire economy operates on this abstract data, it's now really difficult to establish any real intrinsic value of money at all. We are simply trading abstract labor for abstract rewards. Section 4, digitalization and community loss. Let's move on and see how this builds over time. If we look at this timeline of our shrinking human connection, we start in the past, anchored in small local communities where work had clear meaning. Then, the 20th century brings massive urbanization, essentially pulling people from those localized hubs into homogenized cities. Next, we hit the present, defined by total digital integration and the massive rise of working from home. And finally, looming right there on the horizon is the future, marked by AI obsolescence. Notice how with each single step on this timeline, the overarching community gets larger and more digital, while the individual gets more and more isolated. Which brings us to a highly paradoxical and striking claim the text makes regarding remote work. During the recent rise of working from home, a lot of people celebrated the apparent convenience of it. However, the author argues this apparent favor actually finalized the destruction of small communities. By completely tying everyone to a global digital operating system, remote work essentially neutralized the true purpose of labor and erased the beauty and naturalness of human connection. We became physically isolated, literally sitting alone in our sweatpants, yet totally integrated into the massive digital machine. So, the crucial point is this incredibly heavy reality the text highlights regarding artificial intelligence. People are still allowed to work because replacing them with robots or AI is currently too expensive. I want to place heavy emphasis on that word still. The author argues AI is simply amplifying our abstraction. It's stepping in to replace human functionality that was already isolated and devoid of meaning in the new digital age anyway. According to this perspective, we aren't valued for our unique human spark anymore. We are simply cheaper than the robot alternative, for now at least. Section 5. System over the individual. In this rather stark framework, the author suggests humans are currently living in their last era of utility. We've been reduced to a status where our primary metric is simply being worth replacing as mere wear and tear for a hidden system. Individual efforts are no longer about self-discovery or community building at all. They're strictly tied to day-to-day survival. Our work is now directed entirely by the few at the top to maintain the system, keeping economic data as predictable and controllable as possible. The final inescapable equation the text presents is that the hyper-digitalized system has become vastly more important than the individual. We've covered a tremendous amount of philosophical ground today, tracing the evolution of labor from tangible, local community building to this abstract global data processing. The text leaves us with a pretty stark warning about our modern space. So I'm going to leave you with the exact question the author poses at the very end of their work. In a hyper-digitized space, where the system has become more important than the individual, where will this direction ultimately lead? It's something to think about the next time you log on. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll catch you next time.